Coming up on this episode of Brody Even Talk Pinball, we've got special guest Ed Robertson to talk to us about his experience down at the Texas Pinball Festival.
We're going to cover all the new game announcements from the show and a lot more. Coming right at you.
Double super jackpot!
I need a ramp. I need a loop. I want targets I can hit. I need the scoop. I need a double super jackpot in my life. That's right.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Monday, March 27th?
I don't know.
I think so, right?
Yeah, 27th. Look,
There we go.
Boom.
There we go.
Nailed it.
So our monthly pinball podcast, where we have a pretty decent format, and really excited to hear because we got a lot of new pinball machines out.
Dude, so many announcements. It's like Texas Pinball Fest, I swear, has more announcements about new games than Expo does nowadays.
And we're going to talk about that, and we're going to jump right into it because Kevin and I did not get to go down to Texas Pinball Festival. I'm starting to regret it, but there's so much going on that it's tough to get to, which is great. It's a really good thing for the hobby. So without further ado, let's bring on Ed Robertson from the Bare Naked Ladies and Pinball Aficionado. How's it going, Ed?
Hey guys, nice to see you.
Yeah,
Good
thanks
to
for
see
joining
you
us,
too.
man.
So
Well, I just figured I wasn't getting enough attention or exposure in the pinball world.
I felt bad for you.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
noticed. Yeah, so we're
I
like, we really
appreciate
should
that.
have this guy on.
All of your listeners are like, God, not that guy again. Jesus.
Well, we're not just here to talk about Ed Robertson. We're here to talk about Texas Pinball Festival and all the awesome new games that got announced. So
Yeah, I gotta say, really disappointed with the show and the way it's run, and I'm so. It was just a terrible move to go down there for that show.
Really regretting
Time and energy wasted. No,
Save your money, people.
the Vanderveens and all the people that put on TPF, it is an amazing time. It's a show for hobbyists, but now a ton of the industry is there too. There's tons of seminars. I don't even know what the count on games was, but it's 450 plus games. It was a great time. Amazing.
I've heard, in the last couple of years that, it used to be Pinball Expo that people go to, and that's the show, but it really sounds like the Texas Pinball Festival is almost in contention for being the show that if you're going to go to one, you go to that one at this point.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, although, I think there are a lot of amazing shows happening right now. I think Expo in Chicago is tough if you're a vendor or you're bringing games in. I've heard that the sort of inside side of it is a little tougher on people. But if you're just a guy going to a pinball show, there's an awful lot of games there, and the industry is there. And so, I enjoyed myself when I went in the fall. But Texas is special. It's in a league all its own. I would encourage anybody to try and make it down there.
Awesome. Well, I'm eager to get into. I have a list of games in front of me that essentially debut down there. But before we do that, you had sent us your top 10 because you listened to our podcast from last month where we did the top 10 stir machines, and you sent yours over to us. And I got to say, you have really good taste in pinball
I was
machines.
actually surprised for you guys. I know they were subjective lists, but I was surprised how wrong you both were.
All right, let's go through Ed's top 10 that he sent us. We'll start at number 10. Batman 66 SL fucking E. That's an extra special edition.
Yeah, that's the SLFE.
All right. And
I said to you guys, my caveat there was that Lord of the Rings should, by any measure, be on my list of the top 10 Sterns. But I just got rid of mine because after getting to Valinor, I had no desire to play it anymore.
Right.
So it was languishing in my basement for a long time. So I sold it to the guy who's produced our last couple records. So it lives at the studio where I work. So I still have ready access to it.
Good deal.
But yeah, so Batman made my number 10 because the code is in the absolute zygote stage still. It's nowhere yet. But a guy named Lyman Sheets Jr. is coding it.
He's new.
And yeah, he's showing some promise though.
Okay.
I think the game's already fun to shoot. It is gorgeous. It sounds amazing. It looks amazing, and I think it's going to be a masterpiece when it's done. So it had to squeak onto my list. It's still in my game room, so I must like it.
It's tough to bet on a game that is just in its infancy, but with Lyman behind the code, I can't blame you for putting it on there.
Yeah.
And then number 9, World Poker Tour.
World Poker Tour is, I think one of you guys had it on your list and mentioned it as like best bang for your buck for a modern Stern.
That was me. I was less wrong than Nick.
It's true. But if you like shooting drop targets, there isn't a better modern Stern, right? Like,
Yeah.
that game is that when you get the simple explanation of what you're doing on that game, it just opens up to you. First couple times you play it, you're like, why am I not making the poker hands that I want to make on the LED on the table? It's like, oh no, those are just the ramps. That's the tournament, and then on the outside you're building all your inserts up the middle of the table. So yeah, I love that game.
Yeah.
I picked up a sweet one recently, and I love it.
Keith Johnson rule set, so deep, a lot of things to do on it. Can't go wrong for what they sell at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, fun upper playfield, Steve Ritchie design. It's a great pin.
And then next, number 8, AC/DC Premium LE.
Yeah, I don't think it was on either of your lists. And
No.
I got rid of mine. But I just don't think you have a top 10 modern Sterns list if AC/DC isn't on it. Like, it's probably the best tournament game. It's there are so many ways to play that game. Every time I play it, I like it. I just don't want it in my house anymore.
Well, I agree with you there. I had it the premium for about a year, ended up selling it, and I would say it is probably one of the best tournament games out there, but as a single player game, it just didn't last in my collection because sometimes it's nice to kind of go through. I mean, there's modes in there technically, but it's nice to go through modes or a story, and I think it left for other games, even though it was tough for me not to put it in there because it is a great game. But
I sort of put it in there just because I think it has to be in there. It's an undeniably great game, and that's what I tell everybody when they ask me about that game. I'm like, it's one of the best pinball machines ever made. I just wasn't playing mine anymore. And, I have limited space, so if I'm not pressing the start button a lot, it has to leave.
Right. Good philosophy. And then number 7, X-Men LE.
X-Men LE, John Board design. That is a game that, as many people know, it's suffered from very sparse code for a long, long, long time. But when, and people have complaints about the voices and stuff, but I think the animations are incredible. I love that there's sort of 2 paths to 2 totally separate wizard modes. It's a game with a ton going on. It's kind of a backwards Tron, but it is the start of that Magneto multi-ball is undeniably amazing.
Yeah, it's really good.
I think that's a great game.
Yeah. That game could have been on my top 10 too. I mean, you get close when you're at 10 and like 8 through whatever, where you can definitely throw one of those on our list. Here's the one that I thought you were just joking around when I first saw it on here. At number 6, you have NBA.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just Space Jam 2.0.
Yeah, it is. It is. Okay, I fell in love with that game at Todd McCulloch's house. Okay, Todd McCulloch, former NBA player, former pinball world champion, and Todd taught me how to play the game. The game is really fun when you understand collecting all your rings and getting to the finals. It's a huge challenge. And Todd said the funniest thing. He said, it's harder to get to the real NBA finals. It's harder to get to the NBA finals on this pinball machine than it is to get to the real NBA finals. Because he'd been to the actual NBA finals twice, but only once on his pinball machine.
That's fantastic.
So you get to chase that then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I really enjoy that game. You know, we're seeing that ball flip now in Aerosmith. Also, the catapult to the magic box in the new Houdini pin. That's a pretty exciting thing when your
Yep.
pinball gets launched 10 inches through the air and sticks with a magnet to the backboard and drops through a net. Like, that's badass. And, you know, it's still a reasonably priced DMD pin that you can get. And I would argue that it's similar to Iron Man in that it's brutally difficult. It's got a spinning basketball in the middle that fireball-esque throws your ball all over the place. It's fast, it's fun, and it's deep enough to keep you coming back to try and get to the finals.
I think saying that it's similar to Iron Man is the one thing that like definitely piques my interest. And maybe one of the problems with that game is that I've heard, and Stern doesn't release their numbers, but there might be something like less than 500 of them out there. So chances are a lot of people in the hobby just haven't really seen, or if they've seen and played, they haven't gotten a chance to really spend much time on it.
Well, and similar to Iron Man, it's a game that's heavily derided for being so open and basic.
Right.
You know, but that doesn't mean it's not super fun.
I will definitely give that game another look and
All right.
actually figure out how to play
That's
it.
all I ask. That's all I'm asking.
I appreciate that. That's a
I
good
don't want-
surprise.
I'm not asking for it to be on your list. I'm just saying give it a chance.
That's fair. All right, now we're getting to I think more agreeable ones, or I think we're me, you, and Kevin are on the same page with the top 5 at this point.
Yeah.
Iron Man number 5 for you.
Yeah. Iron Man eluded me for many years. I thought I got what that game was, and I thought I didn't need to have it. And then it just clicked for me. And I was like, oh my God, I love this game now. I had a couple bad experiences on that game in a tournament.
Okay.
Where I was like, how do I get 800,000 on a game? I had my ass handed to me, and that's actually part of what piqued my interest in Iron Man was how difficult it could be. So I picked up a great one, and I thought, this is a stripped down game. This is cool. I'm going to play it for a while. Before I know it, I'm like up to my waist in the game, adding mods and color DMD because I totally fell in love with it, and now it's a go-to game for me.
Awesome. I know that from my experience, that was my first game I ever got when I got in the hobby, and I got it by accident. But I've noticed that beginning players who come over to my place absolutely love the game, and players who are veterans and played a long time, they love the game too for different reasons because it is brutal. It's just an all-around kind of game that's almost perfect in how it came together.
Yeah, the objectives are relatively intuitive, and you can learn pretty quickly what you're supposed to do, but lining it all up, it's kind of like BSD lining it up for the 30 million. You can actually pull it off and line it up all at once and get to do or die. You know, my crowning achievement was do or die and Jericho. Like it was ball one it was maybe ball one, do or die, and then Jericho on the extra ball. Maybe I don't know, but it felt awesome.
The game's an adrenaline rush when you do that too. I think it's the only game that is an adrenaline rush definition of it. Moving on, number 4, Star Trek LE.
Star Trek LE is an unquestionably high quality game. You know, I get people's frustration with the game and that it's a fairly safe, fast Steve Ritchie layout. You know, it's in a lot of ways just a streamlined version of Next Gen. But you know, when the medals update and the away team update came in for that game, it really transformed it. And I really like that it's a game that you can play a lot of different ways. And you guys talked about that. You can go levels deep, or you can try and, go all level 1 and go to Kobayashi Maru right away. There's a lot of ways to play that game. And if I had one complaint about that game, I would say that the tier 1 missions maybe they're too easy, but by extension, then 2 and 3 are like exponentially hard. Like it's a no-brainer to complete your tier 1 missions, and it's like a prayer that you ever get through tier 2, you know? So that would be my only complaint is unless you go 3 deep on the modes, you rarely see the 2 and 3.
What's cool about that game is that at least it gives you the option to, as a player, like you can play it how you want. So that would be a huge problem if it just locked you into that, but it doesn't. So thankfully you can kind of get around that, which is great. And if our viewers want to watch Ed kick our ass on that game, it's been archived for all of time on YouTube. You can check it out on our Buffalo Pinball channel there. Ed did an excellent
good night on that one. That's why it had to be on my list.
Excellent tutorial, and he then ran a clinic. So
we drove all the way up to Canada, and he just destroyed us.
That was good though. I was like, you had consistent good games on that, so that was impressive. Cool. And then number 3, Tron Pro, which I was kind of surprised because you don't have a Tron in your collection, but it's ranked so high for you.
I do actually.
Oh, I know. I know now. Yep.
It's at the
I forgot all about it.
I have a Tron up at my cottage. It's the only game I have at my cottage. And so and my cottage is like 3 hours north of the city. I go up there to write. I've written every song up there since '98 when we got the place. And so the last 4 years or so since I got my Tron, that's been like what breaks any kind of writer's block is when I'm stumped on a song, I go play Tron. And so that machine has had a lot of love and a lot of play. And that Tron with a sub is one of the greatest audio experiences in pinball. That they did an amazing job on that machine.
You have to have the subwoofer for the bass drop when you start Light Cycle Multi-Ball. It's outstanding. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so great.
Makes it a totally different game. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, then number...
And you have to have a sub for the sound I just made with my mouth.
Yes.
That's pretty good.
So hook this podcast up to your subwoofer and rewind it 30 seconds and really experience that.
Number 2 is another. I'm starting to see a pattern right now as we get to the top 3. Number 2 is another John Borg game, and that is Metallica Premium /LE.
Yeah, Metallica. I think that game is the spirit of pinball. You know, it's got rad rock and roll art by fellow Canuck Dirty Donnie. I love that. Everybody thinks Metallica's boring. Oh, it's Bash Sparky. That's the game. That's not it. Like that, I feel like I have a different game on that game every time I play it. And the weird insert lighting thing is so friggin' esoteric. It took my friend Drew 3 days to explain it to me to where I was like, oh, why didn't you just say this?
Yeah, it took me a long time to figure out what was going on with that game.
Because you didn't like it, Kev, for a while until you learned that.
And it's like, whatever, I'm done with this game. Because you play it in tournaments all the time, and that's how you play it. You play for Sparky in a tournament. But yeah, once I started actually watching Tuna and you, and like, it just took a while to click.
Yeah, I think that game is kind of the spirit of pinball. It's nostalgic, it's colorful, it's rock and roll under glass, and it was my number 1 game until my number 1 game,
which is
unseated it, which is another John Borg, The Walking Dead.
You know what? Kevin agrees. I agree.
Ed Robertson agrees.
3 votes for Walking Dead pinball. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. What was Mixer Tuna? What was his number 1?
Did he have Walking Dead?
I don't think it was number 1.
I would have. Yeah, I would have.
He'll throw it in the chat. He's in the chat.
He's there. We'll get it.
Yeah, it might have been. His might have been Tron. He loves his Tron, right?
Yeah,
it might have been.
But yeah, Walking Dead. I think Horde is the most exhilarating mode in all of pinball. It is so exciting when you get there. The pulsing red.
Yep.
The shaker pulsing like your heartbeat. Trying to line off those shots before the zombies get to you, and then the helicopter comes in for the drop and the add-a-ball. It's just like, oh, I can't wait to get to it. And there's nothing more frustrating than not making the Woodbury shot on your third ball with Horde lit.
I did that at his house the other day.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of footage of that stuff happening.
Yeah.
So Tuna says Metallica was number 1, Tron was number 2, Walking Dead number 3.
Oh,
so it's just, top 3 goodness.
And speaking of which,
so he's only a little bit wrong.
A little bit wrong, yeah.
Speaking of which, on having a subwoofer, horde mode and subwoofer, game gets dark, just pounding the bass, like amazing. And that is like,
Yeah.
I guess a good pinball machine, a really good pinball machine has like those moments where you just kind of step back and something really cool happens in the game that doesn't happen too often, but it does. You will see it every once in a while when you have a good game. So awesome. Another plug for Walking Dead. Good job to Lyman Sheets and John Borg for just putting together our favorite game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing game. I need to win the pinball raffle so I can get myself one of those.
All right. Let's talk about the main event right now, which is the Texas Pinball Festival, which happened over this past weekend. You just got back last night from it. How many days was that?
I got in, I think it starts Friday afternoon. I got in Friday evening, but there was still lots of pinball to be played. I got in about 9 o'clock and played till just after midnight. And then, so it runs Friday to Sunday.
Okay. And this was the first time that some machines were debuted to the public and they got to play it. We've got some pictures queued up for this thanks to viewer Joe Cheravino.
Yep. He's from City Pinball. He's T.O. Pinhead on Twitter and Instagram. Give him a follow. And he also does the Overrated podcast.
Yeah, he does. And he was on our Iron Man episode last year.
Yeah.
So
big thanks to Joe. Yeah, our roving reporter.
All right, so the first game, Ed, to get your thoughts and feelings on was the Attack from Mars remake.
Oh, they had that there? I didn't see that. Nobody was talking about that one. I played both versions. I guess it's the LE and the standard. They had 3 versions there. But as far as I know, the playfield's the same. Maybe there's some more fancy lighting other than, the topper and the screen. First of all, the screen is gorgeous. Similar to Medieval Madness Remake, they've upped the resolution of the screen. It's totally redone. The animation is much more high res and smoother, and just looks absolutely fantastic. You get a lot of people saying like, "Oh, it doesn't play like the original. It doesn't feel." I've got an original and it doesn't feel anything like mine. It's like, well, yeah, yours is a 25-year-old game, or however 20-year-old game, whatever Attack from Mars is. But I thought it played amazing. It felt to me like a brand new Attack from Mars. I was totally blown away. And more than that, I was blown away at the prices they released it at.
Yeah,
I was going to say
surprisingly low.
I would say $2,000 less than I expected it to be.
Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah, if you looked at the threads on Pinside, people were expecting the real high prices.
We actually saw a pinball price go down compared to Medieval Madness, which is pretty damn good. I mean, it does have less going on than Medieval Madness. I mean, that castle's got to be way more complicated than anything in Attack from Mars.
Right.
So it does make some sense if you just look at what's physically on the game. So that's great.
You know what, though? I've had this discussion several times. I have to think that the bill of materials is nearly insignificant in terms of trying to sell a pinball machine. I think your costs are your employees and your insurance and your factory and your rent and your shipping, and I guess they add shipping on top, but I think what are you going to save in terms of bill of materials between a Medieval Madness and an Attack from Mars? You're going to save hundreds of dollars of parts, maybe. Like, in the great scheme of things, I think it's nearly negligible. And in terms of where their price point is, it actually worried me a little bit. I thought, here's a company that's going to gear up for pinball manufacturing, and I don't know that they've left themselves a lot of margin for error on their bottom line. Like, we're seeing problems happening with Dutch pinball. Even Stern had problems last year.
Right.
And if you have problems in manufacturing, which can come from any of the cardinal directions from any continent, if you have a problem, you don't get to stop paying your employees and all your overhead. You just don't get to ship machines and make money. So I I wish them nothing but the best. I think they have a super high quality product on their hands, and I could see one ending up in my basement because I was blown away.
So Stern manufactured Medieval Madness.
Yeah.
They were contracted out to do that. Who is doing it this year? I know Stern's not, but who did they find to do Attack
It's
from
Chicago
Mars?
Gaming.
Yeah,
Chicago Gaming.
Chicago Gaming are building them.
Okay.
You may know them
And
from
Chicago
such games as
Gaming has
Vacation
a-
America, right?
They have a huge history of building things, all kinds of things, and making playfields, and they're no strangers to manufacturing. But I think we've learned a lesson over and over and over and over that pinball is hard.
Yeah.
And it's a cliche now, but look how many people are stumbling and falling down. So, I'm excited about that game, but it's pinball is hard.
I didn't tell Martha how much it is because I feel like she might grab that game, and
Yeah,
I
she
like
will.
it, but
Yeah,
there's
she
other
will.
games that I want. So hopefully she doesn't
No, it's
listen
good,
to this.
but it's no Sopranos.
If she wants to sell Sopranos and get that.
Oh, well, there you go,
I'm
maybe.
cool.
I'd
I'm
be down
cool
with
with
that.
I'd make that deal.
Yeah. But I wanted the Aerosmith, so we got to wait till that gets in the house first, and then we can let her know the pricing on that.
For sure.
All right, so moving along. Next game, Alice Cooper. They didn't have that to play there, though. They just had...
No, they didn't. They just
the artwork.
announced it in their presentation.
Do you have any strong thoughts or feelings on that title?
Well, my strong feeling is that I love spooky pinball, and America's Most Haunted is a jewel in my collection. I think Charlie and KT are amazing people, and I know this is a dream theme for Chuck. He and his son Bug are massive Alice Cooper fans. So I'm excited to see what this table is going to be, because in speaking with Chuck, he's said he's having a blast with it, and that Alice has been like a total pleasure to work with.
Awesome.
And so I'm excited to see where it goes.
And what's the release date that they're shooting for on that?
That I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
they announced that. They're saying 500 of these games. They're calling them all premiums. They're throwing everything they got into this game. From what I understand, it's going to be a lot more full featured than we've seen even in some of the. I mean, America's Most Haunted has a ton of stuff in it, and this is supposed to even have even more.
Well, it's good to see
Yeah.
that they have increased the number to 500. I mean, I know it's ramping up, right? They got to start somewhere and build up from there, but that way it gets past maybe some of people just buying it to flip it, which is not the best thing for the hobby. It's good for sustaining them. I mean, they at least sell the orders and they can move on to the next title. But that way, if people really want this title, they should be able to get it without being kind of price gouged.
Yeah.
All right, and then they haven't said anything about pricing on it, have they?
I think it was like
Not
65.
that I know.
I want to say
65.
there was a price
That
increase.
might be right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next game, Alien, it's been debuted. It was debuted at Pinball Expo back in October, but they were there. Have you spent much time on this game, Ed?
No, I played one game on it at Expo. The lines were quite long. A lot of people are very excited to get their hands on it. So I played one ball at Expo, and I played one game at TPF over the weekend. It's hard to really get a feel for something in one game. What I would say about this game is, as other people have mentioned too, is like everybody freaked out about the playfield art when it was revealed. Playfield looks fine in the game.
Yeah.
It looks good. It looks like a high quality build. I didn't get much of a sense for it. The machine I shot felt quite clunky. The left ramp was rejecting out of the in-lane return. So instead of returning to the in-lane, it would, for some reason, the ball would drop down and spit out into the center of the playfield. You can see that there's the in-lane return on the left there.
Okay.
Instead of feeding to the flipper as it should, it would drop and bounce off the left side of the in-lane and hop out to the slingshot area.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
How Ghostbusters of it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the one I played felt a little clunky, but I hope that Highway starts shipping Aliens soon.
It's
But as I mentioned a little earlier, pinball's hard.
Oh yeah,
For sure.
you gotta be a little crazy and have a lot of balls to be like, I'm gonna make a pinball company at this
Yeah.
point. And I give credit to anybody who does this undertaking honestly.
Yeah.
And with,
Yeah.
realistically, because it is incredibly hard. You're gonna take a lot of flack from people on pin side. There's stuff going on now, unfortunately, with Dutch pinball, and I hope they can pull out of it. But that's how we get innovation in pinball, by these new companies stepping in. That's how we're starting to step into a more modern age of pinball with displays and better animation. So it's all good, but there are some growing pains, no doubt, with this
I
process.
heard Nate Shivers say, you know how you make a small fortune in pinball? Start with a large one.
Very true.
All right. And we might be getting. I know that Pocketeer has one on order, and Aliens on order.
Oh, awesome.
So Barry was talking, the owner of Pocketeer, that we would have one like in the next month or so, but it doesn't. It seems really soon. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's going to be happening.
Well, we got Andrew Highway watching in the chat. Maybe he can let us know if it's going
Okay.
to be shipping out to Buffalo
I'm
soon.
excited. I would love to. I'd love to get on that and stream it. So, anyways, moving on to All-Star Baseball, which
Yeah,
is
this is kind of out of the middle
Dennis
of nowhere.
Nordman a pitch and bat game, right? That's what you would call it.
Yep.
So there's
Well,
two models,
that's
right?
the zombie version with art by Zombie Yeti.
Okay.
Yeah, when I saw this game, I thought it was a refurbed, 50s or 60s pitch and bat. But this is a Gizmo Games new release, supposed to be shipping in the summer, about $4,500, I think. And I think that zombie version is going to do massive numbers at bars.
I can see that. I mean, it's attractive. You look at, you got to be drawn to that game.
Yeah, it looks awesome. It is super fun to play, like all pitch and bats are. I love that cutout window in the side,
Yep.
so spectators from the side can see what's going on. It's pretty fantastic. I'm excited for them.
And does it indeed dispense baseball cards?
Apparently,
Yeah, because I saw some people walking around with baseball cards, and I was like,
Yeah.
that you have to have that. After Slugfest, you got to have baseball cards coming out of this thing.
yeah, exactly.
That's great.
So anybody who doesn't know what a pitch and bat is, and I'm not terribly familiar. I know we have a collector locally who has one, maybe actually a couple collectors, but the most recent one that I know that was made was Williams in the 90s.
Yeah, the Slugfest.
Yeah, Slugfest. Right. So
But what's unique about these particular games is they have, I think it's called the Running Man top, which instead of just lights indicating where your players are on bases, there's actual little mechanical men that run around the bases.
Oh, that's cool.
It's really badass.
Yeah.
And in both versions, it's just a really cool thing to see your men on base and watch them advance around the bases. It's very cool. I think in a barcade environment, that thing would do really well.
I can see it making money.
Yeah, the zombie
No
one
doubt.
would look awesome next to a Ghostbusters, too.
Yeah, right?
All right. And then I heard Dialed In has some new code. Did you get a chance to check that out?
Well, I don't know the earlier dialed in code enough to speak to what's different about. Oh, there's Danny Peck, women's champion.
There she
at
is. Yeah,
Pinball
Joe said you
Fest.
got to put her in and mention her because she killed it on the tournament.
Yeah, 14-year-old girl from New Zealand won the women's tournament. I love that, and she's a total sweetheart.
Yeah, I think I played a game right after her at Papa last year, and she was explaining to me how to play Heavy Metal Meltdown.
That's her dad, Rotor Dave, and her mom, Fiona, behind her. Rotor Dave, very, very moody and cantankerous man. You do not.
I
wanna
recognize him from
upset-
his pin side picture. It's all coming together now.
Yeah, no, he's awesome. They're totally great, and they had been in Texas for a while, and they're sticking around till April. And I guess maybe finishing up at Papa or something. They're heading to another big pinball event, but
Well, yeah,
what
because
a-
Papa's in a couple weeks, so yeah.
yeah. Anyway, amazing people. But we're talking about Dialed In. I had a ton of fun playing Dialed In. I played it with Eric, and I don't want to screw up his last name. Eric.
I was going to ask you how to
Me-
pronounce his name.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Eric. But Eric is a really nice guy and a hell of a pinball player. So I I played a game of Dialed In with Eric and really got a sense of what's going on in that game. I played it at Expo in the fall, and I was impressed by the layout, but I really had no idea what I was doing. I think that's a pinball nerd's pinball machine. Like, it's very esoteric in its approach. But if you're a pinball nerd and you're gonna like start nerding out on the specificity of the rules and shots of that game, I think you'd really like that game.
Which it sounds like, I mean, when I hear you say that, that's sort of like a good game to have in your home collection, right? Because you can really spend time dissecting it.
I think that it seems like there's a lot to explore in that game. I had a lot of fun playing it, and I teased Jack about how he could have possibly landed that AAA license. Bob the Buck Hunter, plumber, electrician, cell phone repairman. I was like, how did Stern miss this license?
Missed opportunities.
Yeah, but honestly, when you play that game, the theme doesn't matter to you at all. It's bright, it's interesting, it shoots great, it's colorful. You know, you get over the comic book introduction to the game immediately. It doesn't matter to you right away because you're just like, oh, I got to hit that to charge the cell phone, and then the cell phone's the scoop. It's like, it's just fun to shoot.
Looking forward to it. Jack indicated that we might be fortunate enough to be babysitting one as early as May. So,
oh wow!
Hopefully we'll get that. We'll be streaming the heck out of it, and stay tuned for that.
Yeah, lots of Dialed In.
All right. You know what? I missed Bride of Pinbot 25th edition.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
You went out of order.
And keeping Kevin busy here.
It's all right. I can just produce the show now. We got two people besides me talking.
So Bride of Pinbot, the 25th anniversary, Dutch Pinball is recreating the original game with new artwork, from my understanding, but they're using their new rule set.
Yeah, which is awesome, by the way. The Bride of Pinbot 2.0 code is really fun, and it turns that game from a one-shot game into a game that really kind of forces you to play the whole play field.
Right.
That said, I think there was so much kind of confusion and anxiety and anger over the current Dutch pinball manufacturing situation that I don't think anybody could give this concept even any consideration. Like, everybody was so freaked out about what was going on with Lebowski that I don't think anybody wanted to hear about a new Super LE version of Bride of Pinbot.
Right, and who can blame them? And I don't know how quick you are going to be to throw $12,500 at this thing, especially when some other games are being held ransom and the money's tied up in it. So,
yeah, I really hope that they get the contract manufacturing thing sorted out, because I love my Bride of Pinbot, and I know Big Lebowski is a dream theme for so many people, and a lot of people just threw money at that many years ago. And it is a great game. Big Lebowski is a great machine. It's a ton of fun. It looks great. It's really fun. I hope they get it sorted out, because I like those guys. You know, Barry and Yop, and I might pronounce his name wrong too, but it's Cohn or Kane, Koen. Maybe it's pronounced Cohn. I don't know.
You nailed it. That was it.
Yeah. But he's awesome. He's a great programmer, and anytime I had any issues with the 2.0 code, like, that guy was getting back to me at all hours of the night, weekday or weekends, and helping me troubleshoot issues. So, you know, I know there's people that are like freaked out about what's going on with their pinball machines with Dutch right now. I hope they can work it out.
I do too. I mean, the Big Lebowski is my favorite theme for a pinball machine. It's past my price point, but I would love to see a lot of them out there. So maybe one day I can snag one at a lower price. I mean, that's probably a dream at this point, but I wish them the best.
I would say it's a perfect theme, and it's really well executed on that pin, you know. So to see this get derailed in a contract manufacturing dispute. It
Right.
just seems like such a drag.
Absolutely.
I can't imagine the frustration that Barry and Yop are experiencing over that. So I hope they get it sorted out.
All right. And then this is I guess a surprise. Houdini. I haven't been following Houdini ever since it was brought up before Pinball Expo, and John Papaduke was involved in the design of it. And then I just sort of forgot about it because at Expo, I guess they didn't even bring a game. They brought like a play field that didn't do anything. It's like, okay, this is destined for failure. It's got the J-pop curse at this point. But recently they're back. They got a new design. They got a new designer, and it looks like they brought a machine that's flipping.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't followed Houdini like since the vaudeville circuit. Talk about a timely license.
This is another one of those old man themes, right?
Yeah. No, I think it's actually kind of a timeless license. It's pretty cool, and I spent some time talking to Joe Balser about it. Joe's the designer on the game, and I actually came up. I have Joe's new company name because he told me they went from a drawing to this game at Expo in 4 months.
That's insane.
So I said Balser's new company should be P2P Pinball, paper to playable in 4 months.
That is pretty amazing. It looks pretty damn good from the pictures that I'm seeing.
They skipped the whitewood. They designed a machine and they built it. And they brought in a guy. I'm going to screw up his name. Coding it. He's really nice guy. I want to say his name's Jeffrey, but I might be getting that wrong. Sorry. He's a totally sweet guy, and he totally busted my balls while I played the game. Because he was giving all these tips to Todd McCulloch while Todd played, and I said, hey, why didn't you give me these tips? And he said, your ball didn't last long enough.
Oh.
Yeah, that game, it was fun to shoot. It's got some really cool shots. The catapult on the side that throws your ball up into the magic box, and then it drops it down to a secondary catapult that fires it into a ramp return. I was impressed. The screen and backglass integration looks really good. It's got some great theming with locks and chains on the pop bumpers that move in a really cool way. I think everybody was shocked and impressed with what they brought to the table.
Does this look to you from seeing like the build quality, the way the game is presented, the way the game shot? Does it seem to you like it can stand with a Stern pinball machine, or that kind of quality?
Well, certainly it looked great, but when you talk about something standing against a Stern, you have to take into account that you can right now go put down money and take an Aerosmith home. And that game is fun. That game looks great, shoots great, build quality is great.
Yep.
And yeah, I think the build quality on Houdini looked fantastic. But how far out is it?
Yeah.
How real is it at this point? So it looked amazing. I think they have worked miracles getting that game from concept to flipping at TPF in such a short period of time. But I go back to pinball is hard. And just because it looks great and has a great layout doesn't mean it's going to be in your home 6 months from now or even 2.5 years from now.
Yeah, building one or two is one thing, but ramping up a whole manufacturing line.
I want to say that's nothing to do with the team that Houdini has assembled or
Oh, we got frozen Ed.
Ed froze up. All right, let's see if we can get Ed back and unfreeze him.
All right.
Some technical difficulties music.
We'll switch that back.
Sorry, guys, we're coming back up. The joys of a live podcast.
What happened?
You went frozen on us.
Sorry. It's Canada. The internet's new up here.
I think you need to send us your video. 'Cause we're not.
Was I not?
Yeah, we're not seeing you. There you go.
There you go.
Hey.
All right.
There I am. Sorry about that.
No worries.
There he is.
It's been going all right so far. So knock on wood.
So what I was saying as I got cut off is my trepidation about Houdini has nothing to do with the team they've assembled or what I think is their ability to pull it off. It's just that we've seen it over and over and over and over again, and that having something that looks great and shoots great at a show doesn't mean it's ready to head out the door.
And it's one thing I've learned, and everybody who's been in this hobby at least for the last 5 or so years, is that I don't want to say don't get too excited, but I'm not cynical at this point, but I temper my expectations when a new machine is released like this from a new company, right? It's good to see, but I don't go crazy over it. I don't get attached to it because it might not actually come to fruition. You just don't know. And even if the game gets produced, look, this is a new company. That's their first game. There's going to be problems with it because anytime you build something or a company starts up from scratch, somebody's going to be the beta tester, and that's the people who buy this first game. That shouldn't scare people off because the game could be valuable, it could be great, but just
look what happened with
caution.
Medieval Madness.
Yeah.
Stern built Medieval Madness, and we had all kinds of problems getting those machines delivered. Like, that's a proven manufacturer, a 20-plus-year-old design and layout, and code was already done, and it still took years for people to get games.
Yeah. So the best word of advice is just wait and see. Wait it out. If you want a Houdini, wait till it comes out. Wait till people are playing it, and it's a good game, and then you can jump on it. And do we know when that's coming out yet? Did they release any kind of dates as to when they're going to start shipping it?
No, I don't think so.
I didn't. They might have said something, but I didn't hear it.
Okay. We'll stay on that. Okay, just 2 more games. We're moving along. Jetsons from Spooky Pinball.
I tried to play Jetsons. I went over to play it, and instead I got sucked into a head-to-head match on Rob Zombie with Charlie, and it gave me a totally new appreciation for that game, actually, playing it against Chuck. I had a really good time. Jetsons, I did not play. So I don't have much to say. I think it looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it looks like they added in some extra 3D printed cities and stuff.
Yeah,
buildings in this. They've filled it out a little bit more since we saw those initial pictures on the flyer.
Yeah, and they've been careful to point out this is not Spooky's latest release. Like, this is a contract manufacturing job from Spooky that was spec'd and designed and ordered by, what's it called?
The pinball company.
That's it. Big pinball distributor essentially wanted his own machine that you could only get through him. So
interesting.
That's what Jetsons is. And a lot of people sort of criticized it for being simple and cartoony and doesn't have a ton going on. And essentially this guy from the company said, that's what a lot of my buyers want. It's a bright family-themed pinball machine with simple objectives. And so, I think that's Spooky Pinball keeping the lights on.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing for them. Who's going to begrudge them that? Not me.
Yeah. Well, if there's a market that's demanding it, then more power to them. And that allows them to make their next game, and it keeps people happy who want a game like that for their game room, then great. I think from my perspective, the Pinside crowd, a lot of people who are serious about the hobby, you'll look at that and you'll look at the price and you'll see what's on the play field, and that might be where the criticism comes into. But as you mentioned, it's just trying to fill the demand for a certain segment of the market. So good on them.
Yeah, I think it's important to remind people every once in a while that not every game is for you.
Right.
And not every game is supposed to hit all of your particular tastes and price points and complexity levels and all of that. Like, I don't know, Pinside sort of acts like a hive mind mob mentality sometimes, and that, unless a game is the most brutal, hand-drawn, code depth, impossibly packed with features, themed after only 1980s X-rated pornography, then I'm not interested.
I think you nailed it.
It's funny when I got to remind myself. Now that I'm more of a critical of the games that come out and really look at them. Iron Man is one of my favorite games, and I remember when that game came out, and this is when I kind of jumped in the hobby. People just looked at it and hated it and wrote it off because it just looked cheap. There's nothing going on in the playfield. It stripped down rules. But it proves that you can make a game like that. There's not a lot going on, pretty simple, and it can be an amazing game. So you don't want to necessarily write off a game for that. Those are just sort of the initial impressions when somebody looks at it. But the best rule of thumb is just play the game.
Gotta play the game.
And
even if you play the game and don't like it, maybe that game wasn't made for you. You don't have to talk about what an idiot someone is for making it or what an idiot anyone is for buying it if it's just maybe not for you.
Good point.
The more you know. Where's the more you know?
Here we go.
All right.
Always have that at the ready.
All right. Last game on the docket, and this is the game that you said you were most impressed with or had most fun with, was Total Annihilation, which is a homebrew game.
Yeah. Total Annihilation. Oh, that's that guy. I met that guy wearing his Quicksilver shirt.
Nice.
It takes a special kind of guy to wear a shirt of a playfield that's covered in dicks. We were all pointing them out. Oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. Total Annihilation. Everything on that game was done by Scott Zanisi. He designed some of the PCBs. He routed the playfield. He coded it. He wrote the music. It is like a punishing early 80s solid state layout mixed with modern RGB lighting and sound. That is one of the coolest parts about it. The inline drops, which also work as a 2-ball physical ball lock.
Oh, nice.
The balls get trapped and they rest on the back of the drop targets for the lock, which is really cool. That game blew my mind.
So this is a homebrew project from what I understand. Do you think Scott has any intention of maybe trying to shop this game around and get it mass produced?
I do. I'm certain it's going to happen.
That's
and
awesome.
I'm buyer number one for that thing, man. That is a load of fun.
I'm always scared to ask that question when I hear one of these homeroom games are really good and fun, and then there's like, well, there's only one in this world, and that's it. So again, don't get too excited. But that'd be great if there is a game like this that comes to market that is more of a old school style game, but still incorporates some of the newer technology or things that we've learned since then in terms of making pinball fun.
I'm shocked with my takeaway from Texas Pinball Fest, which was I literally played hundreds of games of pinball there. Lots of oddballs I've never seen before. Lots of games I've been told you got to play this game. You're gonna want this game after you play it. Did all that. Saw, was excited to play all the new stuff, whether it was Attack from Mars Remake, Houdini, Aliens, all that. After all of that, my takeaway was this homebrew one-man show, Total Annihilation, and Stern's Aerosmith, like the game that I thought was just like, oh, whatever, it's a new Stern. I lined up to play that game like 5 times.
It's
like
fun.
In a line, 5 or 6 deep, and I had a blast every time. And that's what takes me back to, Houdini looks good. Attack from Mars Remake looks good. Aliens coming along, but I can get Aerosmith right now.
It's killing me not to pull the trigger on that game. I'm so close to it. I have so much fun playing that game, man.
Yeah, I think Donnie did an even better job on Aerosmith than he did on Metallica. I think he had a
Agreed.
better understanding of what makes pinball art great. He nailed it. There's art like hiding under the ramps on that machine, like cool stuff for you to find. The amp cabs on the back wall of the playfield, it just looks so badass, and the screen animations have ended up looking really good in context of the game. It sounds killer. I don't know, man. That game really blew me away. I'm excited to get more time on it.
The game right now in its current state, which it's pretty much done out of the box. It's had time to mature. The code is it looks like most of it's there. The presentation's amazing. I think it looks better, as you were saying, than Metallica, which is high praise. The toy in it is awesome. The multi-ball start's awesome. The push your luck with locking more than 3 balls if you want to, or canceling multi-ball is awesome. It's got that element. I think it just needs to be just one of the a top game, like a top 10 game of all time. It just needs something special with the rules, or maybe something a little more special. It's got to have that lineman.
Yeah.
Where's the hook? What makes this game distinguishable from any other game out there? Which is what Metallica has, which is what Walking Dead has. That game right now, Aerosmith has elements of like Mustang, where you can kind of cancel out multi-balls, which is good, and I like that. It just needs something else. It needs a hook. And
well, I agree with you on one level, but on another level, I think maybe that's Lyman's thing. And if maybe, Lonnie Roth is the lead coder on this, and if he delivers a solid game that's really fun and doesn't have that weird esoteric Lyman depth, then maybe that's cool. Maybe that's just a different, again, maybe that game's not for the nerdiest of the nerds like us, but maybe that game just delivers an incredible step up and press start experience where you know what you're shooting for, you know what you're supposed to do, and it delivers.
No, that was definitely a one more game for me. Mm-hmm. And it was, I saw, we got on location and people were just gathered around it. We got a Batman 66 a month or two ago, and right now, kind of head to head when they're both next to each other, Aerosmith is just the game that is pure fun to play. Batman 66 might get there with the rules, Lyman there. I would not be surprised, but right now Aerosmith is super fun. Went below everybody's radar. I'm just hearing sort of nothing but good things at this point.
It looks amazing. It shoots amazing. The multi-ball is a total blast. I made the mistake of lining up one time to play that game with Josh Henderson, who's got pretty good motor skills. And he just blew that game up. But it was cool to watch because I saw a lot more of the game than when I had played it on my own. It was a little bit of a drag waiting for him to finish his first ball with a higher score than I had ever achieved on the game. But that game is amazing and available.
Very much so. I would recommend it that's like a buy in my book right now, and I will put my money where my mouth is soon enough.
Yeah, I had no interest in it theme wise. Like artwork and all that is awesome, but like I've never been really into Aerosmith. But even after playing it once, it's like, all right, I got to play it again. I got to play it again.
John Borg,
get that
man.
multi-ball going.
John Borg.
Yeah,
John Borg.
John Borg. He's my guy.
He is my guy, man. He knows how to make a fun pinball machine in my book.
Yeah.
He designed Space Jam as well, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Oh my God, full circle. Whoa.
And NBA,
Oh my God. All right. Well, Ed, thanks so much for spending some time with us for recapping Texas Pinball Festival, which we couldn't go to, but we got a nice overview of that. Before you go, can you just tell us what's going on with the Bare Naked Ladies? You guys have a CD coming out in the next month or so?
We got a couple coming out this year, actually. We did a really fun project with an old school a cappella band called the Persuasions. We did a live in-studio recording with them, 14 or 15 songs, all recorded in a day and a half. No overdubs. It's all live off the floor, and we had an amazing time. So that's coming out in like a week or two.
Nice.
You can check that out on barenakedladies.com. We're touring this spring, coming to a city near you, assuming you live in the Northeast or the Midwest.
We got some of the dates on the screen right now here for you.
Oh, nice, guys. and then touring in the summer, touring in the fall, and we have another new record coming out in the fall.
Awesome.
Bare Naked Ladies, Fake Nudes.
I
That's
love it.
Nudes.
That's amazing.
It took you guys that long to come up with that?
Come on now.
I heard some of the new songs with the Persuasions that are awesome.
Thanks.
The
Yeah,
old,
we
the old
we had a
apartment is
blast.
like it's like a totally different song now.
Yeah, and I found out literally about 30 seconds before that recording, Cliff from the Persuasions, 68 years old, said, "Hey, Ed, do you mind if I take a crack at the lead on this one?" And he sang it, and now I feel like I can't ever sing it again because he just did such a better job than I ever will.
No, it looked fun. We got to see the video, so
Yeah, it's a good
very,
time.
very cool. Check that out. Thanks, Ed. Thanks for coming on. Ed
Yes.
Robertson.
Anytime, guys. Hey, I sported my Buffalo pinball hoodie to TPF, so,
Yes.
flying the flag.
Thank you so much.
Flying my
Thank you.
freak flag.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate your time
All right.
as always, man. Thanks for being here.
Peace.
All right. Let's see. Let's go to what we normally do at the beginning of the episode, and we've got some updates. Game room updates. Kev, anything new with you?
Let's should we thank our sponsors? I think we got our
Oh my God! Yeah,
we didn't do that.
I am
Let's
so
do that
sorry.
now.
Sorry, friends.
Thank you to Ed. Thank you to all our partners as well.
Take it away, Kev.
All right. This is why I'm here. Comet Pinball, makers of awesome LEDs for your pinball machines. Check them out, cometpinball.com. Double Danger Pinball, he's been hanging out in chat. Save 15% with coupon code Buffalo. They make amazing apparel and, some pretty cool Buffalo pinball.
I will say Martha's super picky on like t-shirts. Doesn't really like t-shirts, but has a Double Danger t-shirt and loves it. So that's high praise. It's good quality stuff.
Awesome. Pinball Life, when you own a pinball machine, something's going to break. When it breaks, go to pinballlife.com.
Sometimes new in the box.
Sometimes, it just always have some extra parts on hand. Jersey Jack Pinball, maker of Dialed In, The Hobbit, and Wizard of Oz. Check them out, jerseyjackpinball.com. Locally in Buffalo, Community Beer Works, communitybeerworks.com. I'll let Nick talk about beer.
I like beer. Well, here's the deal with Community Beer Works. If you guys are visiting Buffalo, there's Buffalo's got some good beer. We've had some new breweries lately, but Community Beer Works, in my esteem, is the best. And thankfully, they're the ones who wanted to partner up with us. They came to us. They love pinball. They're going to be building a couple of their facilities that will have pinball machines, so check them out.
Yep. All right, Titan Pinball, titanpinball.com. They make replacement rings for your pinball machine, so get rid of those old dirty, crusty, dried-out rubbers on your pinball machines. Replace them with awesome-looking Titan Pinball rings. Use coupon code Buffalo to save 10% while you're at it. The Pinball Arcade, makers of virtual recreations of real pinball machines. Pinballarcade.com just released Swords of Fury, so you can get your Lion Man on your phone wherever you go. What more do you want? And Tilt Cycle, Dan Burfield, tiltcycle.com. Big shout out to Dan for giving me the heads up about the Space Jam t-shirt. He makes great upcycle pinball art, and you can save 20% with the coupon code Buffalo.
And here's a pro tip. If you guys are going down to Papa, Dan is down in Pittsburgh, so if you want to order something from him, you maybe can save on shipping that way.
Ooh, there you go.
Big pro tip.
That's what the more you know.
All right. So game room updates, Kev. What do you got? Anything? You do got it. Something.
We talked about Jackbot last time, didn't we?
Maybe getting it. I don't know if you
Yeah,
had it
well,
here.
I think Swords of Fury. Street Fighter had sold at that point, but I don't think I had picked up Jackbot. But a viewer of the show, also a listener, Steve Daniels had one, and he's out in Vermont, and he met me halfway, and I turned a Street Fighter into a Jackbot, and I couldn't be happier about it. It's got amazing saxophone music. This game plays like really fast and crazy too. The slingshots are super powerful, and it's just like super nasty.
it is. That's why I like that.
It
man.
reminds me of The Walking Dead in that you have to battle it. Like
Yeah.
you're always fighting to stay.
That's your
alive.
hardest skin that you got in here right now.
Oh,
I mean, Ghostbusters is cheap drains, but that is like a official. Like it's on the up and up.
That's
it's
acceptable-
fair. It's
acceptable
fair.
drains? Okay.
It's fair.
All right.
Well, it's not like flying over plastics.
Yeah, for sure. I can appreciate that. Other than that, I think that's it. Things have been low key. Oh, I had Sean came over and fixed my my Addams Family display. So I had been getting. Here's a tip. So if you got a DMD game and it's got like weird graphical like corruption, or like there's like extra dots on your animations or something like that. He was watching the stream last Monday when I was streaming Adams, and he said, "Oh, well, it looks like a bad RAM chip. Run your memory test." So if you go into the memory test, it does a little thing where it shows like the lines on the screens and stuff. When it gets to the end of that, it'll check the RAM on your display, and it turns out it was a bad RAM chip. So he came over and replaced that for me. We streamed it. It was 2 hours of desoldering. So if that's your thing, you can watch it on our Twitch channel. But yeah, he swapped out the chip. Looks great. The animations are all beautiful now, and he put a NVRAM in there for me as well. So pretty excited. So I don't have to worry about batteries leaking in that game or anything. So
there you go.
Pro tips. What's happening in the Lane arcade?
Well, here's some exciting news. Apparently, we're in the market for a water-powered sub-pump backup.
Wow, that is
yeah,
exciting.
That's great.
That's a serious game room update.
Yeah, Martha's like, we can't get more games until that happens. I was like, who do we need to call? I've never moved so fast in my life. I mean,
we get this guy. We get Aerosmith in
the
here.
guy didn't show up today.
What?
Jay Fairbrother recommended his roommate. All right, and he was gonna come over today. So I was like, okay, now we can get Aerosmith after that. We'll see. The guy didn't show up.
Oh,
Jay Fairbrother is to blame once again. Unbelievable. God love him. Okay. Anyways, I have no good, but it's been a good year so far in terms of pinball machines for me.
Man.
There two new ones came in, or two new to me.
And there'll be a dial in here eventually too. So
yeah,
that's a beautiful thing.
You got tournament recap. So we had a tournament a couple weeks ago called the Turdament.
Yes.
Turdament, because we played a bunch of turds, or games that people consider turds. What can be said for that? We had nearly 60 people come for that. Our winner was Adam, right?
Yeah, Adam Becker.
Adam Becker, one of the top players in Canada. I think he's second only to Robert Gagno.
Okay.
As far I don't memorize the standings anymore, but Adam's a hell of a player. He came down and showed everybody what's up as usual. So it was great. I had a good time. Any other closing thoughts at that?
No, it was. I was amazed 60 players came out to play terrible games, and I was amused every time a new round would be announced and everybody would kind of like sigh about the games that they had to play. Because it was like you knew what you were getting into, but still the reality of like, oh man, I gotta go play Waterworld. Or
Yeah, all right,
I have
fine.
to play Hook.
Well, you want to go play Gilligan's Son?
Yeah,
I know Sophie's Choice.
Yeah. Good luck. But it was a fun concept. Not something I think we would do a lot, but every once in a while, it's like just.
I don't think we'll have another tournament. I mean, sometimes I like to do a little novelty things or something different, so it's not the same thing over and over again. And I do want to have an episode where we just talk about tournaments that we've run and formats and thoughts on that. So maybe we'll have a focused one. But there's so much news in pinball right now, so it's hot, and you got to talk about that.
It was the news avalanche this week.
We talked about Aerosmith impressions. I'm highly impressed. That game right now for me is a buy. Totally. I absolutely love it. It's a fun game. Just F-U-N, right? Capital F, capital U, capital N, as Gary Stern used to always say during his talk. So and that's what pinball's about. So
the one thing that struck me about, like, I liked it. It left me with a positive first impression. I wanted to keep playing it, but to me, it seemed like the Mexican food of pinball. It's like, let's take all these things that are working with Metallica and AC/DC, and we'll just rearrange them a little bit, and we'll throw them in this new game, and here you go. Here's another machine.
That's 100% fair. It does seem like copy and paste. It's like, okay, well, we're gonna copy this sort of like layout, which is like Kiss, and then we're gonna take the Sparky toy from Metallica and put that in there, and then we're gonna take
Donnie. We're gonna do Dirty Donnie.
Is that a horrible thing? No, I mean, actually, this is almost the best of them in terms. I think the art is better than Metallica. I think the shoot's better than Kiss, and I like Kiss. I think it's more interesting of a layout than Metallica. So all these things are good right now. But my fear when I saw that, and maybe what you're alluding to, is it looked almost like a lazy copy-paste effort. Copy-paste, make this Aerosmith game, ship it out after the next one.
Yeah, and when I saw like Crank It Up and VIP passes and things like that, it's like, oh man, the rules are like the same, but things don't operate in the same way as you would expect them to with those names. And I've only played like 2 or 3 games, so I don't really know how everything works yet. But it seems seems better than way better than I was expecting.
Right now, the crank it up sort of works like on Star Trek from Stern, where like on the first level missions you can go into the start mission shot during a mode, and it just makes certain shots more valuable or changes the shots. So, but it is confusing because you see crank it up, you're like, wait, I know what crank it up means because I've played the heck out of Metallica, and everybody else who's played that game, Martha was like, why don't they just change it to another name? I mean, there is a little confusion there. It works out, and you'll figure it out, and life will go on. But I totally see what you're saying with that.
I mean, it's a banned game, so it makes sense to reuse some of the terminology, but still, it's that was the one thing when I was playing, I was like, oh man, that's kind of lazy.
Yeah, man. So I am there's a good chance I'll get one. I got to see what's going on in my life, but I do want one. If I had the option right now, I would pull the trigger. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go. We got some viewer emails and some tweets.
Yeah.
Kev, so the first one from Luigi. Kev, go ahead.
Sure. So Luigi asked us 2 questions, 1 email. First question was, when you're in a tournament, is there ever a time to slow down and assess what to do? And is it worth to try for a wizard mode in a tourney? So, yeah, I mean, you can take time to start your game. Is there a penalty if you take too long to start your game in some tournaments?
I mean, there's etiquette involved in terms of when you say slow down. Look, if it's your turn, you need to go up there and play, right? Yeah. If somebody just shook the machine and tilted it, then you can give it a minute or two. That's let your opponents know what's going on. Say, hey, it was just a tilt. I'm going to give it a minute or two. And then take that time to kind of breathe, to relax. Sometimes when other players are playing, I don't just kind of have my eyes glued to DMD and obsess what's going on. I'll walk around and I'll step away. So I think that's a slowing down thing. I think maybe when it's your turn to approach a game, don't run up to the game and speed up necessarily if that doesn't work for you. Slow yourself down. Be conscious of your movements and what's going on, and just try to relax yourself and play the game. I think that's what you're getting at.
Yeah, and I think if you want to take 30 seconds to read a rule card, nobody's going to hold that against you. If you've never played a game before, it's totally acceptable. That's what it's there for. Just don't be waiting there for like 10 minutes trying to evaluate the play field and what everything means.
There was a tournament recently where there was a player who, like, every time he was in a group, he couldn't be found or he was gone. And I know his group, because I was tournament director, was complaining to me. And I can appreciate that. So don't be that guy. Don't make your group constantly look for you. If you got to go somewhere, go to the bathroom, step outside for a minute, just let people know, but don't do that every time.
Yep.
So just be respectful. The world's not revolving around you, okay? Be cool about it. But you can take a breather. So find that balance.
Yeah. So second part of Luigi's question. He says, is it worth it to start off at a virtual pin, not including Pinball Arcade, a multimorphic pin, or a traditional pin? And if I were to get a traditional pin, should I get a newer one like Dialed In, or an older one like Twilight Zone or Space Jam?
That's a loaded question.
It is totally a loaded question.
Number one, this is my personal opinion. I would stay away from the virtual pinball machines. And we've talked about this on the show before. I can see the allure because you can have every game, right? That's pretty much out there in the virtual land. And it looks like a pinball machine, sort of, and it's got buttons. But a couple things to be said to that. Number one, you can play great recreations of pinball machines now with Pinball Arcade. So you can get that experience, albeit not a 300-pound machine, in your house, right, taking that space. And there's also VR, which is good. Kev, what are your thoughts on the other parts of that question?
I would just say it's something I would maybe consider now that I've got a room full of pinball machines. It's like it might be a nice addition to the existing collection, but I wouldn't start there. Play Pinball Arcade, use your VR headset, save a whole bunch of money. Because if you're going to buy a VR pinball machine, they're like $5,000. So you're better off, if you really want to get better at pinball, get a real machine and learn the physics and the flipper maneuvers and how the things are going to bounce, and the feel of it is totally different. So you can learn rules, but learning how to actually play pinball is not going to help you with.
When I was getting in this hobby, I looked at them and I can see the allure in that mindset, right? I get it. But if this resonates with you, then this might help you decide. What's important for me and what I like about pinball is that it's real, and VR or these virtual pins, they're not real. At the end of the day, you're still staring at a screen, right? So, that's why I would lean towards and suggest somebody, or at least ask them to consider this. Let's try getting a real pinball machine, because that's a special experience with that ball going around. I mean, that's what I think most of us love about pinball.
Yeah, agreed. You need that real the real physics, computers can't replace that right now. So, and if you're gonna buy a real machine, it should be Space Jam.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna get your first machine and your budget's unlimited, again,
That's actually a decent. I would say that's a decent price range for a pinball machine. And
what's that?
like an $1,800-ish kind of game.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can get an entry level game right now, or Space Jam, or $1,800, and then see how you feel about having a pinball machine. If you get bored of it in a month and you say, I really love this, I want to get a new one, then go get that. But you don't have to come out of the gate running and get the newest, fanciest thing. Even that's what I did. That's sort of my personality. But you don't need to. I don't think you can go wrong either at some extent. Most of the pinball machines, if you buy them, they're not going to take a huge hit on price, provided you do some research and you figure out what's going on in the market, so you can get a machine and then you can sell it down the road. If you get a brand new machine, though, you're basically paying to take that machine out of the box. Just like when you buy a car, right? You drive it off the lot and it loses its value. However, if you buy a Space Jam for $1,800, the next day that game is still $1,800, right? So think of it that way. Do you really want to lose money because you just took a pinball machine out of the box?
Yep.
And new machines you might be able to buy for a couple of years. So just all things to consider. I don't know your life situation, but hopefully that helps you kind of navigate that thought process.
All right, next question from @thegeekyhusband on Twitter. He says, do you have any good saving up for a pin strategies, i.e. cash on the mattress, offshore bank accounts, etc.? So I kind of liked your credit card technique to get a new pin.
I know people talked about this on Pinside before. I remember years ago, and buying a pinball machine with a credit card, you're like crazy. You shouldn't do that unless you have the money. Well, I disagree. Here's how I've gotten many of my pinball machines. I didn't just have $5,000 lying around at the time, but I knew I can get that in a year. So I had a credit card that didn't give me any interest for 18 months. Boom, ordered a pinball machine and was able to pay it off. Mm-hmm. And God forbid if anything happened in those 18 months where I knew I couldn't pay it off, well, I would be able to sell the pinball machine, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't a huge risk involved in doing it that way. So if you have the credit and you have that luxury, it's not a bad thing to do.
Yeah. What I did was, when I first got into the hobby, I thought people were nuts for paying, a couple grand for a new game. And it is still kind of nuts when you think about it. But, maybe start with a lower end pin and play it. Fix it up, maybe, buy one that, isn't the best shape, shop it out, fix it up, make it worth a little bit more, then sell it, then work your way into a slightly more expensive game. And then when you get a couple games, maybe sell two to buy one. That's kind of how I've grown my collection. That's
a great way. I think that's the way a lot of people do. You're just kind of progressing through and upgrading, and you're just kind of getting newer machines and quote unquote better machines.
Yep.
Just because it's more money, though, doesn't mean it's better, and hence the air quotes. Right. You can get some great machines for under $1,000 and enjoy the heck out of it and get comfortable in the hobby and then build up from there. Meanwhile, you just bought this machine, let's say a classic machine for $800, and you're still saving maybe several $100s a month for another machine. Then you turn around and sell it for $800, which you paid for because that's the market price of it, and you did your research and you asked some collectors. Now you haven't lost anything. While you're saving up, that money's not just in the bank. You're actually playing with that money. Mm-hmm. It's a great system.
It's way more fun.
That's why pinball is pretty amazing right now. I mean, it's a pretty amazing hobby.
Yeah, it's a good time. And, eventually you're going to run out of room, and then you'll have to consolidate pins to buy new pins. And so the first thing, fill up your game room, and then, work on upgrading your machines. That's my advice.
All right.
From @TurboGrafx7 on Twitter, he says, if you had to pick 5 pins for a well-rounded collection, what would they be?
Oh, my God. I think that is like a top 10 list, top 5 list or something.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. I mean, look at my top 3 favorite games were Walking Dead, Metallica, and Iron Man. I feel like they need to be in the collection. And then I think I would, just to kind of balance things out, I would have a classic game, like a early solid state game.
Yep.
Right now, what came to mind was Harlem Globetrotters for right now. And then I would have a longer playing game because the first 3 games that I mentioned, actually all 4 games are short playing games, so I would have a longer game, and I might have like The Hobbit.
Yep.
I think just so I have one longer playing game. I don't typically like longer playing games, but I think if I had 5 games, there's a good balance in there.
Yeah. If I didn't have to worry about maintenance issues, I would throw an EM in there as well. But I don't know how to fix EM, so I don't really care to own one. But yeah, I like the concept of having a bunch of different games from different eras. Like an early solid state, a 90s, late 80s, early 90s solid state, DMD game and a more modern game. I think you can't go wrong there, and you'll be all ready to play in Pinburg. All right. One last question from @TheRudySoup on Twitter. He says, vanilla, chocolate, or pistachio fudge?
Chocolate, no doubt.
I go vanilla all day.
Oh man, that sounds like that. That actually disgusts me. Yeah.
At least nobody picked pistachio, because who wants that?
Yeah, I don't even know what that tastes like, to be honest. All right, so wrapping up. Well, let's start off with the bottom thing first, because this is new. This happened this afternoon, and it's a long time coming. Guys, we just created a Patreon page. If you go to patreon.com/Buffalo Pinball, we had several fans ask us when we're going to create a Patreon page because they want to support us. Maybe they don't watch us on Twitch and they listen to the podcast. We actually have far more people that listen to us on the podcast than watch us on Twitch. It's a way to support what we're doing. Nowadays, I feel like every day we're doing something in pinball and giving our time, energy, and talents. I never in my wildest dreams years ago thought that I would be in this position where pinball is almost like a second job. I absolutely love it. It's a labor of love, but it takes time and dedication. It takes crawling on floors sometimes to set up equipment. It could be
that all over Pocketeer to set up the tournament.
A frustrating hassle. Kevin had to take off from work one day last week in the morning to work on his internet connection for just bringing streaming and the podcast to you guys. So we're very comfortable. I think we're bringing a lot of value here that I want to at least put it out as an option. If you want to support us that way, we have a lot of supporters on Twitch, and I appreciate that. But if you're listening to the podcast and you think that this is quality, you think that you're enjoying this, consider taking 5 minutes to go on Patreon. The cheapest level's a whole $1. You can pay us anything you want a month.
Yep.
We have a standard level also of $5 where you get to kind of vote on what games we'll review each month. And when we do reviews, or what content we'll discuss, so you can help have some say in that. I didn't want to get into too many fulfillment things because part of the problem is we are so damn busy that we barely have time for anything anymore. So I wanted to keep it simple. I wanted to just put that out there. Again, there's so much content out there these times. Like never before in the world is there so much content, so much options, so many ways to support things. Just the fact that you guys are listening to this is it's an honor. We're very flattered. And one way that you can also thank us for sharing our time and doing that is consider supporting us that way.
Yeah. So because to Nick's point of all the different content out there, and it's like I had to talk him into the $1 level because my theory is if there's somebody out there that I enjoy, I'm going to at least throw $1 at him every month, and I'll just put it on there. I won't even think about it because I figure if everybody that listens just throws $1 into the pot, it ends up building up to something significant. So if you want to just throw us $1 a month, that's cool. If you want to go to the $5 level, you can donate more a month.
If you want to donate $1,000, we'll take that too.
We'll take that.
That's cool.
You can make it recurring. That's fine.
We're going to have a lot of pinball machines to stream, I guarantee you, though.
Yeah, we'll turn it into pinball machines, and then
I'll stream all day.
All day stream.
And also, I'll throw this out for you guys to think about. At Geeky Husband made a suggestion to us, and one of the options on Patreon is to kind of set certain like fundraising goals. Like he suggested, if you got to people supporting you at $500 a month, okay, which is it's not unheard of. There are people in this hobby who are getting that. Then we would offer some reward, and he suggested things like having like a supporter only tournament or going to speak on like a panel at Pinball Expo, which we've been avoiding that just because there's a time and cost
Money.
to that.
Yeah.
So I want you guys to share what would be enticing for you. If you are donating and we do all hit a level like that of $500 a month, what would you like us to do within reason? And we'll talk it over, and hopefully we can add that goal if it makes sense. So we're thinking on it. I do want to do some incentive like that. And again, like things like going on to Pinball Expo and doing a panel is a no-brainer at that point if we're getting that kind of support. So
absolutely.
Let us know what you want. You can send us suggestions at talkpinball@gmail.com. You can message us through Twitch. You can message us through Buffalo Pinball. There's a million ways to get in touch with us, but this is a collaborative effort. We appreciate. This is why we do it this format, because we get to interact with you guys. And if you noticed, we started this podcast a year ago, and it's gotten a hell of a lot better.
Oh, my God.
Go back and look at our first podcast. Go back and look at our first streams. Kevin and I are the type of people that are always trying to make the experience better for the user, and we pride ourselves. I drive out here, and Kevin lives 45 minutes away from me, so it's an hour and a half round trip. I could just Skype in and do this podcast, but it wouldn't be the same as sitting next to Kevin and having sort of an authentic in-person conversation, and it wouldn't be the same for the viewers. So
it's audio quality wouldn't be as good.
It's those little things that we do and give our time because this is our kind of pride and joy. And that's my pitch, guys.
Yeah, I spent like 2 hours setting up the stream today, getting all those photos. T.O. Pin had hooked us up with all the pictures, and we had to set up the Skype. I was testing everything out, and some of you guys snuck in on my testing, but it's all good. And I do like T.O. Pinhead's pitch. He says, for the cost of one game of pinball a month,
that's nothing.
You can support Buffalo Pinball.
Yeah, and if you're not good at pinball, you're going to get far more value out of $1 for this podcast. Yeah. It's already like an hour and a half. There you go.
We'll teach you how to play the game, and then you can earn replays, and you'll get your money back just one replay.
And we'll tell you good machines to get and bad ones to avoid. That's a lot of value.
That's right.
I wish somebody told me not to buy a time machine.
You can't go back in time on that.
Cannot do that. All right, Kevin, where else can, to wrap this up, where else can people find us?
People can find us on Facebook. We have a group. We're at Buffalo Pinball on Facebook, Twitter at Buffalo Pinball, Instagram at Buffalo Pinball, YouTube Buffalo Pinball, and we've got a here's the newest thing. If you're on this newfangled thing called Discord, if you know what that is, all the kids these days are using it. You can jump on. We got a Discord channel, discord.gg/Buffalo Pinball. You can jump in there and talk with us. Well, me, Nick's not in there yet, but we can chat during the what?
Wildcat.
Wildcat.
Well, I just wanted to read this for the Wildcat's my one of my favorite comedic voices in the chat. He says, "You need slow motion black and white video of the bros looking sad to the camera over Sarah McLachlan music." Oh my God, I love it, man.
Nick would do that. I guarantee he would do that.
Yeah, I would.
So yeah, jump on Discord. A lot of times when I stream, if we do off of our regular hours streams, I'll throw a notification in there that we're streaming. So yeah, get in there. We can chat in between shows, and you can tell us how much Wildcat is funny, how funny he is. Thanks again, guys, for joining us. Thanks again to Ed Robertson of the Bare Naked Ladies for coming on, telling us all about the Texas Pinball Festival. Check out the Bare Naked Ladies. They got a new CD coming up. They're going to be going on tour. Thanks to Joe Cheravino for providing the photos that we used today. Really awesome quality, too, man. Joe does a great job of his photos. Yeah, he's got some crappy ones of me that are on my Facebook page, but that's not necessarily Joe's fault, Well, 50-50. We'll split the blame. Yeah, follow him on Twitter. He's at T.O. Pinhead, and on Instagram as well. I think the same handle. And subscribe to his movie podcast. It's called Overrated, and he's a super big movie geek. And they talk about movies that they think aren't up to par. He's scorching the earth. He's just he's trolling people. I swear to God. Go get people fired up. I think they did Back to the Future or something. I don't know. Oh, boy. Yeah. All right, guys. We'll catch you next month on the podcast, and then hopefully as soon as tomorrow for the pinball stream. Yeah, See you soon.